Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, there's another prospect ranking list out that also has 4 Dodgers on it, just like the one we talked about the other day, but it's not the same 4. And this one also talks about 4 Dodgers who could be on next year's list. We'll dig into those. Then we will have the rest of yesterday's interview with Evan Phillips. We talked a little bit longer than we had room for in one episode, so we got about 10 more minutes of talking with Evan, which was a lot of fun. And then we will dig into the 2024, I just noticed my graphic says 2023 Hall of Fame ballot and see who I would be voting for if I had a vote. That's what's on tap. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, especially to our everydayers. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. My name is Jeff Snider. My co-host is Vince Samperio. It'll be just me for 2 of the 3 segments today, although it'll be me and Vince and Evan Phillips for the middle segment. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. And with that said, welcome. Thank you for spending another week with us. It is our Friday episode, last episode of the week, and another great week of episodes, great week of interaction with you listeners. We love it, and we've had a lot of fun. Yesterday's episode with Evan Phillips got a lot of good feedback from you guys. Seems you guys really enjoyed that. We'll try to do more player interviews as much as we can. It's, however we can get them, we will take them. And Evan Phillips was a great one to kick off this season with, because he is, like, you guys know, Clayton Kershaw is my favorite player of all time. Evan Phillips might be my next favorite Dodger. I've always loved the guy. And, it's a running joke in my family, how big an Evan Phillips fan I am. So that was a lot of fun for me. We will have the rest of that interview for you in a few minutes. But first, I want to talk about another prospect ranking list came out. We talked about Baseball Prospectus last week. And then Baseball America came out, I think it was on Wednesday. And we haven't had a chance to dig into that yet. Baseball America also had 4 Dodgers on their list, although it wasn't the same 4 that BP had. Dalton Rushing and Nick Frasso were on both lists. But on Baseball America, Rushing is their number 50 overall prospect. Frasso is 97. And then in between, they have Gavin Stone at 82 and Andy Pages at 96. So Stone and Pages, who weren't on the BP list, are on the BA list, and no big surprises there. We talked about Stone in that Baseball Prospectus episode, and we talked quite a bit about Andy Pages with Lindsey Crosby a week ago. And when I did that crossover with him, Lindsey is from Locked On MLB Prospects. He and again, I would recommend you check out Lindsey's episode of Locked On MLB Prospects from a couple weeks ago, where he did a breakdown of the Dodgers farm system. Really good episode, a lot of good information. And so no real big surprises there. The fact that I can't remember which two, Tyron Lorenzo, and now I'm spacing who the other one who was on the BP list, who isn't on the BA list. But the thing that was more interesting to me, because we talked about all those guys already, was BA also did an article about 20 guys who could be in their top 100 next year. And out of 20 guys, 4 of those were Dodgers. So 20% of their guys who they expect to break out this year are Dodgers prospects. And so I thought that would be interesting. Josue DePaula was the other one on the Baseball Prospectus list. He's one of the 4 here who is on BA's list to possibly break out this coming year. And then there's Jackson Ferris, who I also talked quite a bit about last week with Lindsey Crosby, because he was the headliner of that, the headliner coming back in that Michael Busch trade. And then there is Tyron Lorenzo, who Vince and I talked about the other day on the Baseball Prospectus episode. But the one that kind of caught my eye was Joendry Vargas. I think it's Joendry. It's Joendry. And I would be inclined to say Joendry anyway. But I also have an autographed baseball card of him that I got a year or two ago. And it's actually spelled with a Y, Yoendry. And so it seems like it's definitely Joendry. It's spelled with a J now, but I think at some point it was maybe spelled with a Y, or at least sounded enough like a Y that somebody who making a baseball card made an error. So Joendry Vargas, he's 18 years old. He just turned 18 in November. This kid, he is basically exactly a year younger than my daughter. That's how young he is. I'm starting to think my major league career is never going to happen. But Joendry Vargas is a year younger than my daughter. He turned 18 in November. So he played all of last season at age 17. He was in the Dominican Summer League. And, it's hard to really tell the level of competition. Although, even at that, he was 0.7 years younger than average in the DSL. And so at 17 years old, he's not, there's plenty of 17-year-olds in that league, but even that, he was young for that league. And he batted .328 with a .423 on base percentage and a .529 slugging percentage. That's a .952 OPS at age 17, playing against guys a little bit older than him. Pretty darn impressive. And I was looking at MLB Pipeline's scouting report on him. And it seems like other than actually running fast, he does pretty much everything. He's just an average runner, but hits well, hits for power, and has a great arm, good fielder. I'm going to read you what MLB Pipeline said. It says the Dodgers pull one of the top prospects out of nearly every international signing class, with Vargas the latest example. Ranked number 3 in the 2023 crop by MLB Pipeline, he signed for just over $2 million out of the Dominican Republic in January. And this report is from a few months ago, last year, I guess. He's just 17 years old, will need time to develop, but in a system loaded with shortstops, he has the highest ceiling of any of them. A former switch hitter, Vargas now bats exclusively right-handed. He has a sound swing and advanced approach, patiently stroking line drives to all fields. With his bat speed and the oodles of projectable strength in his 6'4" frame, he could grow into 25 homer power while also producing high batting averages. Though he's bigger than most shortstops, Vargas has good actions, range to both sides, reliable hands, and plus arm strength. He's one of the more polished hitters and defenders in his international class. An average runner who could lose some quickness as he matures physically. He'd profile well at third base if he had to move off shortstop. And that's always the question. That's always been the question, even with Corey Seager. When you're a tall shortstop, tall and lanky, question is how much are you going to fill out? Vargas right now is listed at 6'4", 175. I'm 6'3". I haven't been 175 since I was about 5'3". He's definitely not built like me. We'll put it that way. But if he fills out to 210 pounds, that could move him off of shortstop. We'll have to see. But this profile, it's pretty exciting. And you have to assume he will move over to the States and play, probably start the season, maybe in the Arizona League, but probably, I don't know, probably with Rancho Cucamonga. Wherever he plays, he'll be 18 years old the whole season. It'll be exciting to watch. And he's one that I'm excited to see. And, it was exciting to see his name on this list of guys who could break out, because at this age, and as well as he's played already, this could be a really fun year for his progression. And, if he plays really, really well, he can move up a couple levels. Like if he finishes 2024 at AA at age 18, like he could be one that we're thinking about, is he going to play in the big leagues at 19 or definitely by 20? So obviously a lot of development to happen between now and then, but I'm excited to see it. And I was excited to see his name on this list. He's a guy who I've kind of been thinking about a little bit, and, I've never seen him play, obviously, but I'm excited to see it. And I hope he plays for Rancho Cucamonga, because I get down to California often enough. I could go catch him in Cucamonga, and I'd recommend you do the same. I'm going to come back in a minute, and we are going to get into the rest of that Evan Phillips interview. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. If you've ever had to buy tickets to any event, sporting event, concert, comedy show, whatever it is, it can be a pain, especially, if they're all sold out. So you're on the secondary market and you're always like, well, okay, hidden fees. And is this going to cost me? Like, am I getting the best deal? Go to Game Time, because you can know for sure you're getting the best deal, because they guarantee you're getting the best deal. And the way they guarantee that is they just get you the best deals. I did it myself. I've told you guys before, when Nate Bargatze, my favorite comedian, came to Salt Lake, I see him every time he comes to Utah. And I went on Game Time, and I went on every other secondary site too. And Game Time far and away had the best prices on tickets. So that's where I got them. And if you are looking to buy tickets, it's super easy, super convenient. The app is easy. You can do it on just through a browser. And because you're a Locked On Dodgers listener, you can get a good deal. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, I'm back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Especially thank you to our everydayers. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Be sure to go to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers to become a Locked On Dodgers insider. You can text with us. It's just a few bucks a month. Good way to support us. And also get to text with us back and forth, get text alerts from us. And there's a free 14-day trial. So all of that, check that out. And without further ado, let's dig into the rest of our conversation with Evan Phillips.
On that note, coming out in the ninth inning, Dodger Stadium, packed house, pretty much on a nightly basis. Is there a way for you to describe how that feels and getting that big out? And, you seem like an even-keeled, calm guy, very well-spoken, but when you get to that ninth inning, the emotion comes out. I mean, we see a little bit different side of Evan Phillips than we're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best way to put it. And I try my best to not let that emotion really hit until the game's over. Because then, I think the first few times that I've really shown emotion, it felt like it was in a clinching matter. And so to have that, game-ending feeling, right, when you get that last out of the ninth inning, naturally some just emotions going to come out. Whether it's frustration because you threw too many pitches, or I remember we went to Fenway, played Boston, and I got 2 saves in Fenway Park, and something about that stadium, something about Dodger Stadium, it just brings out a different element where you want to show a bit more excitement. You want to show how valuable those outs are to you, and how much it means to the team to get that win. And I think that's kind of the mentality I've taken into the closer's role. I want my team to win, and now it's in my hands, and now it's on my shoulders to get the job done. And I've really taken a lot of pride in that, because that win first mentality is essentially what kickstarted my Dodgers career. Because in 2021, when I first got to the team, I was pitching mop up roles where we were down 5 or 6, or up quite a bit, and I'd come in and just get the handful of outs that were needed to finish the game. But I made those matter because I wanted us to win. Or if we were losing the game, if I did my job and got those handful of outs, it saved Kenley, Blake, Joe Kelly, all these guys down the line. It saved them for the games that meant more, when there was more on the line.
And it kind of was that 2021 postseason that you mentioned, that all of us as fans were like, this Phillips guy might be a dude. Like it was going into that postseason, like you were on the roster, but I don't know if any of us had huge expectations, but you had a couple big, spots, and it's like, oh, this guy might be a lot more than we thought when the Dodgers picked him off the DFA pile,
Yeah, man, that's a great example of, how I tried to make my role matter. And, there's no better way to make your role matter than in the postseason. So, there was a couple of times where we were, down early on to the Braves. And, unfortunately, I think Joe Kelly got hurt in the second game I pitched. But, I kept my focus the same. I wanted to come in there and do my job, and try to do our best to keep the team in the ballgame. And in that way, in 2021, I felt a lot of pride in that. And so to kind of chip away and create my role, to make my role bigger and bigger as time went on, and eventually now into a closer's role, I've kept that same mentality.
Yeah, I got one more for you. Then we got some rapid fire. Just we've heard a lot of questions, and they even asked Brandon Gomes and Doc after, I think, the Yamamoto press conference of, the expectation, the spotlight, is it different, this season compared to years past? And we've kind of said here on this podcast, like, the Dodgers are expected to win the World Series every year, at least for the last 6-7 years for sure. They've made the playoffs the last 11 years. Do you guys talk about it at all? I know you haven't, maybe in the group chat or you specifically, does it feel any different, or does it just feel like we're expected to win the World Series and that's kind of how it's been for a few years now?
That's another good question, because I think internally in the clubhouse, I don't think we would ever outwardly, say that and create that expectation. I think that expectation is set the minute you walk in the door and you're a Dodger. I think that's just something that's underlying when you put on the uniform. And I think there were times over the past couple of years where we would go through a stretch, a lull stretch where we're not, hitting well, pitching well, losing games, whatever it may be. And then you kind of have to flip the narrative back around and say, what's our goal as a team? I think everybody understands that our goal is to win the World Series. So, whether or not we're going through cold stretch in May or, whatever it might be, as long as we're chipping away and building towards our best version of our team heading into the postseason and giving ourselves the best shot at the World Series, I think we'll be in our best position to win. Externally, guys, the fans and the folks at Dodger Stadium every night, they want the World Series just as bad as we do, and I think they're a bit more outspoken about it. You'll see them, chatting Twitter, even yelling at us during the games, things like that. But trust me, we know that that's definitely our end goal, without a doubt.
That's awesome. Actually, I have one more quick one before we get to the rapid fire. Is 2024 the year we finally get an Evan Phillips bobblehead for my shelf behind me?
That's something. That would absolutely be something. My oddly enough, my wife's uncle had one made of me, so I have one.
Nice.
But it's legit too. It looks great. I'm just sitting there in my little, my hands are right in front of me like a wind up stance. But maybe we'll have to have a conversation with Dodgers marketing to see if we can get one out there this year.
All right. Hopefully they're watching this. All right. Rapid fire questions. You ready for this? The
Absolutely.
Answer to every question is one of your teammates. Okay.
I'll do my best.
Your teammate most likely to get lost on the way to Dodger Stadium?
Gavin Lux. Just sometimes his life seems like it's a bit out of whack, but great guy. I love you, Gavin.
Most likely to go on the injured list because he hurt his wrist signing too many autographs?
Ooh. An injury like that would definitely be me. I'll jam a finger throwing football, but I don't sign enough autographs for that. So let me see. I'm going to go Tony Gonsolin. Too busy playing with his cats.
Okay. Most likely to talk to a starter during a no-hitter?
Oof. Bobby Miller. Just maybe the naiveness of being a young guy.
Nice. Most likely to know his BABIP and his WRC plus?
Oh, man. This might not be right at all. I don't live in the dugout, but I'm just going to say Max Muncy. I think he might know those things.
Okay. Most likely to be able to belch the alphabet?
Oof. A few years ago, I would have said Tommy Canley. This year, I'm going to say Clayton Kershaw.
Okay. That's kind of a dad thing to do.
Yeah. Sure
most
is.
likely to be in a Dude Perfect video?
Ooh. Mookie can do some incredible things. So being in a Dude Perfect video, like throwing a bowling ball, down a hallway that goes down a cliff and into a basketball hoop seems like right up his alley.
Sweet. Most likely to have a career as an actor after baseball?
I'm going to give that one to Clayton as well, because he has already starred in one of my favorite shows, New Girl. So I could see him taking on a bit of a comedic role somewhere down the line.
That scene where Des can't say the word penis is one of the funniest things I have ever seen in my life. Oh, I love that.
It's a great show, man.
Oh, so good. Most likely to drive Uber in the offseason, not because he needs the money, but just because it sounds fun?
Ooh. I'm going to embarrass myself again. I used to drive for Uber way back when, so it's because it's front of mind, I'm going to say myself.
All right. Most likely to cry watching a sad movie?
Most likely to cry during a sad movie, I'm gonna say Freddie, because it's probably over in Rosé or something like that.
I didn't know Freddie, and I knew that was the right
feels.
answer to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most likely to crack a joke at a funeral?
Oh boy, that's a tough one, guys. I can put that on somebody. So let's go with the most unassuming. I'm gonna say Chris Taylor, because
Nobody would
guess
expect
Chris
that.
Taylor would be
Oh, that would get the total reaction for sure.
That's the idea. That's the idea.
All right, two more. Most likely to win a spelling bee.
Blake Trinan. Blake's a smart guy. He seems like he knows a lot of things.
All right. And last one, most likely to know all the words to the whole Hamilton soundtrack.
Ooh. Man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go with Jason Hayward, but that's because I trust that he's like a well-rounded guy. I would bet his wife and him have gone to see the Hamilton concert a few times and maybe even had the soundtrack like on her Liz is telling me it's not a concert, it's a play performance. It's close to the same thing.
That's why we have
The
live,
answer
to keep from embarrassing ourselves on Lockdown Podcasts.
Exactly.
I was hoping the answer to that was Chris Taylor too, because that's when I'd most like to see Chris Taylor just bust out with the, I'm not throwing away my shot.
I would love to see that too. That'd be awesome. I was hoping.
Well, I think you passed and didn't offend anybody, so I think we're done here, don't you think, Vince?
There we go.
Yeah, man, we got our time, we got our answers, and we've been talking about how excited we are for Dodger season to come up. I know you guys are probably in the same boat. Starts a little bit earlier for you guys, a couple of days, since you guys do have the season in Korea. But yeah, I can't say I'm more excited than I was before, and because I am.
Yeah,
absolutely, guys. It's going to be a blast this year, without a doubt.
Well, thank you very much, Evan, for being with us. It's been awesome, and hopefully we'll do it again, after the Dodgers win World Series in 2024, and then we'll make it an annual thing after they win every year.
There we go. Sounds like a plan, guys. Thank you.
Cool. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, the NFL regular season is over, but the playoffs are going on right now, which means it's even more fun to watch. And there's still time for you to get on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. You don't have to win the bet. Just place a $5 bet and you get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And the app is so easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet. You can do live same game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. It's the best way to find popular parlays and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. This episode is also brought to you by Logix Banking. You know how on this show we get a lot of in-depth analysis, sometimes some hot takes, right? Well, let me give you my hottest take of the day. The best lineup in LA right now is the lineup of auto loans at Logix. They start off with my favorites, the proven and dependable new and used vehicle loans. You can count on these guys to give you low rates and save you big time bucks. Next up, they've got an exciting new rookie sensation in their electric vehicle loans with super low rates and flexible payment terms. Rounding out their lineup, they've got their auto refinancing loans and lease buyout loans. With these guys, you could lower your monthly payments and get on the road to owning your car faster. Look, I know it's a hot take, but seriously, no one can beat the lineup at Logix. Visit your local Logix branch right here in LA and surrounding areas and let one of their amazing team members help you. Or just apply online in minutes at logixbanking.com/car. That's LOGIX banking.com/car. Hey, I'm back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodger your first listen every weekday morning. Especially thank you to our everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. Also want to remind you to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. And go to, if you want to become a Locked On Dodgers insider, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers for just a few bucks a month. Good way to support us. You can get text alerts from us, text back and forth with us. It's a lot of fun, and there's a free 14-day trial. So check that out. And with that said, let's dig in. Oh, I also want to thank Evan Phillips again. It was a lot of fun talking with him. I was struck by how insightful and sincere he was in the conversation. Like hardly any cliches. Like the only cliche I can think of is he did say the ninth inning is a different animal. And I actually had written on my notes, I almost asked the question as, is the ninth inning actually a different animal? And then he actually used that phrase. So I think that was the only cliche though. Everything else, he just, sincerely, gave genuine answers. And so it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Last thing we're going to talk about today, the Hall of Fame ballots are out. We will find out on Tuesday who is making the Hall of Fame this year. And I just want to go through the ballot a little bit. There's several former Dodgers on the list. There's Chase Utley, Adrian Gonzalez, Bobby Abreu. Who else is a former Dodger? Andrew Jones, Manny Ramirez, Jimmy Rollins, Adrian Beltre, Gary Sheffield. I believe that's all the former Dodgers. I would not vote for all those guys. There are 8 guys who I would definitely vote for on this. And those are Todd Helton. Actually, 7 guys I would definitely vote for, and 1 guy I probably vote for. The 7 definites: Todd Helton, Chase Utley, Billy Wagner, Andrew Jones, Adrian Beltre, Gary Sheffield, Joe Mauer. For me, those guys are definite Hall of Famers. And I've seen people saying, well, he's a Hall of Famer, but he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, and making that distinction. And for me, if a guy's a Hall of Famer and I had a Hall of Fame vote, I would vote for the guy. First ballot, if somebody deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, they deserve to be in on the first ballot. And we shouldn't make that distinction. So those 7 I would put in for sure. The one the reason I originally said 8 is Carlos Beltran. I think is deserving as a player. I'm still grappling with how much we should hold 2017 against him, because he did cheat and he did spearhead the cheating. And that's a big deal. And the fact that I wouldn't vote for Alex Rodriguez or Manny Ramirez because they cheated. So I'm torn. I think I would vote for Beltran, but I don't know for sure. And then then there's 4 other guys who I would consider, I guess, and that's Andy Pettitte, Mark Burley, David Wright, and I'm trying to remember who the other one was. Jimmy Rollins. Oh, and Bobby Abreu. I'd give him some consideration too. Guys who don't make it for me: Francisco Rodriguez. No, I'm surprised he made it to a second year on the ballot. He's just not a Hall of Famer in my book. I think the bar for relief pitchers has to be pretty high, and K-Rod was very good for a brief amount of time, but doesn't cross that line for me. Adrian Gonzalez, no, good player for a long time, but not a Hall of Famer. James Shields should be one and done, probably with close to 0 votes. Torrey Hunter, not a Hall of Famer for me. Solid player, but not a Hall of Famer. Jose Batista, no. Brandon Phillips, no. Bartolo Colon, no. Jose Reyes, no. Matt Holliday, no. Victor Martinez, no. And then the other one, my other no, is Omar Vizquel. Maybe that one's a little more controversial. For me, Vizquel, I think he was a little overrated defensively and terrible offensively. And so he doesn't cross that line for me. I wouldn't begrudge anybody who voted for him. I do expect he will eventually end up in the Hall of Fame, probably on a Veterans Committee ballot, but I wouldn't vote for him. But so then of those other 5, I ended up going with the left-handed pitchers, Mark Burley and Andy Pettitte. They would probably be my last 2 votes. I go back and forth with Andy Pettitte, obviously, because he admitted taking PEDs, but I do make a little bit of a distinction for guys who did it before the Mitchell report, and before it was strictly forbidden with penalties and testing and everything, and guys who did it after. That's what, Manny Ramirez, you tested positive twice after testing started. No. Alex Rodriguez, unfortunately, A-Rod was my favorite player for a long time. And even when everybody hated him before the steroids, I loved A-Rod. He was so much fun to watch. But yeah, sorry, A-Rod. It doesn't get my vote. I would have voted for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens when they were on the ballot, because they were an earlier time. People make the argument that Bonds and Clemens were both Hall of Famers before they took steroids. That's true for A-Rod too. And so for me, it's just, I think it was a different time. So, but of those, so the 3 who I think I might vote for at some point, but wouldn't make my list this time, are Bobby Abreu, David Wright, and Jimmy Rollins. I don't really think David Wright and Jimmy Rollins are Hall of Famers. David Wright, Hall of Fame peak, but just, didn't play long enough. But I'm also an advocate of Dale Murphy and Don Mattingly being in the Hall of Fame, and they're kind of the same boat. injuries derailed the Hall of Fame career. And so that's why I would, think about voting for David Wright. Jimmy Rollins, I think, even when he won the MVP, he wasn't the best player in the league. He wasn't even the best player in the Phillies infield. That was Chase Utley. Utley was so overlooked in those Phillies infields. A lot of it because people forget how important defense is. And Rollins, he was fine. And I wouldn't be upset if he makes the Hall of Fame, but he probably wouldn't get my vote. Bobby Abreu, I like Bobby Abreu a lot. And I go back and forth. He's one that I just like. On any given day, I disagree with myself about whether he's a Hall of Famer. But those guys, the other guys, Todd Helton, I think is Hall of Famer. There's the Colorado argument, but I think that he deserves it. Utley for sure. Chase Utley, and I saw another Dodgers podcast. I'll name it since I've been a guest on it. The Bleed Lows podcast. They had a conversation the other day, and all three of them, not in an agreement, as one of them said that Jeff Kent should be in the Hall of Fame before Chase Utley. I strongly disagree. That the only way to make that argument is if you think home runs are the only important thing. Chase Utley was so much more of a complete ball player than Jeff Kent. I wouldn't be upset if Kent made the Hall of Fame, but Chase Utley is absolutely deserving. Billy Wagner, people give pushback on, but I think he's the most dominant left-handed reliever in baseball history, and I think he deserves to be in. Andrew Jones, it's crazy to me. He's in his 7th year on the ballot. He should have been in, much, much earlier. Legit Hall of Famer. I don't like him. I hated Andrew Jones before he became a Dodger. He was my least favorite player in baseball. And he didn't do anything to fix that as a Dodger, but quality wise, he's a Hall of Famer. Adrian Beltre, obviously first ballot Hall of Famer. Wish it was with a Dodger hat. Gary Sheffield, kind of the Andy Pettit situation, kind of linked to steroids in a different way, but he's in his last year on the ballot, and Sheffield, Hall of Fame hitter, not much of a defender, but a Hall of Fame hitter. And then Joe Mauer, first time on the ballot, absolutely Hall of Famer. Hope he makes it the first time. One of the best catchers in baseball history. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who do you think on this ballot would you vote for? I'm more of a big Hall guy, I guess, but those are who I'd vote for. I'd love to hear who you'd vote for. If you watch on YouTube, shoot me a comment in the comment section and let's hear it. And with that said, I think I'm going to wrap this up. That'll do it for this episode. That'll do it for this week. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Especially thank you to our everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. If you're not a Locked On Dodgers insider, it's easy to become one of those too. Just go to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. It's just a few bucks a month. Great way to support us financially and also get text alerts from us and text back and forth with us. It's great. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSince91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and both of our DMs are open there. We've started posting a lot more on Instagram recently, so be sure to check that out. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or you can send us a voicemail or a text message at 323-863-LOCK5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you on Monday.